So, what I'm presenting on is this phrase you might hear sometimes people say, that this quote, like these direct word for word, it's, evolution is just a theory, means, belittle it in some way, or make it seem less than what it is, or just kind of discredit it in general. Then he said again, my name is AJ. So this is a nice little clip, picture. If you've ever seen the famous picture of, it's called the ascent of man. It's supposed to be man evolving from his earliest form, pre-proto-humans, all the way through the modern Homo sapien. And of course, this is not. This is Homer sapien. This is Simpsons character. So if you read this, it says, Monkeus edallatus evolves into Chimpus imbecilius, evolves into Apis stupidus, evolves into Neanderslav, which evolves into the current form of Homo sapien. So as we'll talk about, this is not exactly correct. It's not. This is like looking rearward view of it, and we have no way of knowing this where we in the present state today. Not having seen this. It's just a nice little picture. Okay, so Charles Darwin, he is kind of the godfather of this whole thing. This is Charles Darwin as a young man. He was born and died in England, 1809 to 1882. And this is, the important thing here is that he was around in the time of the Industrial Revolution. England, as you may or may not know, during this time, or a little bit previous, started the Industrial Revolution, started with machines and coal-fired power plants and all these things. Was really the first place in the world to have this on a large scale, and it kind of started this whole kind of technological movement in the area. He was really big into science. When he was, 20-something, in 1831, he took this voyage on the HMS Beagle. HMS, if you know anything about English ships, is Her Majesty's ship, Beagle, and what it was tasked with doing was going to South America and surveying the coast of South America, getting maps, getting cartography, that whole thing. He spent 5 years there, 1831 to 36, and he, the whole time basically on the ship and on the islands there. And the big thing he found while he was there were these Galapagos finches you see here. If you don't know what the Galapagos are, they are a string of islands off the west coast of South America. And he, had just loved his time there. He spent a lot of time there. He studied, and most of his kind of the impetus for his theory of evolution started on the Galapagos Islands, and this time on the Beagle. And the thing he noticed, as you can see here, that there's multiple types of finches with different types of beaks. So we have finch 1 has a large head, large beak, very strong jaw, meant to crack perhaps bigger nuts or bigger bugs. This finch down here is a really, really tiny beak, maybe to get smaller into a smaller tree area for nuts or bugs or something. So he found that there were finches specifically suited for different parts of the island, different islands in general. And then after that, in 1859, it took him about almost 25 odd years or so to publish his famous theory on the origin of species, which is his book where he outlined basically his starting idea for the theory of evolution by natural selection. He actually published a paper the year previously that was really his idea, but nobody read it, nobody even heard about it at all, and so he published this book, and then he got famous. The funny thing was that in his time, he's actually more famous just for writing about his journals, kind of like his life in the sea in the Beagle, than he was for evolution. He became a famous author for his journals and his accounts of his life in the Beagle. And the important thing also, because before, that you need to notice is that evolutionary theory has changed since 1859. It's 2010 now. We've had over 150 years of science, and things have changed in 150 years. Okay, so the important, if you don't take anything else away about evolution, the important thing here is that you can really define it in 3 sentences. Number 1, mutation occurs. And we'll define mutation later, I'll have some definitions later, but basically mutation is any change by the cell to change in the DNA both by the cell doing it itself or by an external force, perhaps radiation, perhaps some other natural event. Number two, individuals are selected. And the idea here is that individuals who are best suited for their environment are going to be selected and propagate onward. Their DNA and their progeny will survive, and the other ones will not survive as much. And so the idea we saw before, the finches. So the finches on Island 1 had big beaks. They were able to survive, and they were better suited for that environment. Finches with smaller beaks were better suited for their environment. So those two groups of finches, survived on their own, and they propagated on the different parts of the islands. And number three, populations evolve. And the important thing here to delineate between 2 and 3 is that the idea of population. What is a population? Well, a population is a unique, specific set of like individuals. So it could be, which are ecologically diverse, meaning it could be all the specific type of bees in North America. It could be all the finches on the islands. It could be all a certain type of spruce in Alaska. I mean, the point is that it's a specific type of species in one specific area generally. And as you see this little graphic here, they get these things culminate, and that is basically evolution. A little more information about evolution. Another key thing here is that we have genetics, which we'll talk about in another presentation. But the idea of genetics, which is what all living things possess, since the first living things we know about, plus time equals evolution. So the idea here is that because we have genetic basis for life, we have DNA that replicates, we have genes that code for certain functions in the body and in the cell. And because these things happen over a long, long time, they happen over many generations, these two things combined together give evolution. There is variation over time when genetics come in to play a part. Another important thing here, too, a good idea to think about evolution is that evolution is a process and it cannot see ahead. So the idea of cancer is a good one. Cancer in the body is a very efficient machine. It's it works very well, it kills other cells, it spreads rapidly and chaotically, but cancer doesn't know it's charging on ahead, destroying the body, and it's doing really great until you die, and then the cancer's dead. So cancer does really well on its own, it evolves and can change and do all these things, but it can't see ahead of ahead of the next step it takes. And until it kills you, it doesn't know that it's heading towards doom. So that's a good example of evolution. And so another important idea is to define evolution by the negative. What is it not? So first and foremost, it is not from simple to complex, or vice versa. There's no real idea in evolution that says it has to be from these simple organisms, the soup of life that is way back when in the early eons of time, up until this really modern, diverse world we have today. There's no idea that it has to be that way, because if over 99% of species have been exterminated since life began. So this waxes and wanes all the time. And again, this idea of genetics and time is that evolution is not generally measured in years, but in generations. So the idea that if you're an elephant, it takes about 100 years or more for you to have one elephant live and have a generation of elephants. And so evolution takes many generations, 10, 15 or more sometimes, to see an effect. So if you are a human scientist, you would not be able to sit around for 200, 500, 1,000 years to see a change in this